Hi, it's Melissa. Quickie tutorial on Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. Now, this is one of the staple yoga postures that most people know when they take a yoga class, and yet it seems simple, but there are so many things that can go wrong. Okay, so for Warrior 2, let's look at what we're really looking at. Our front knee lines up with our second toe. And ideally, we're going for roughly 90 degrees. That does not work for everyone. So when I talk about ideal alignment, it just means that there's a big range. You do not have to have a 90-degree bend. That doesn't work for everybody's knees. If you need more stability, you come up higher, take a shorter stance. Perfectly fine. Nothing wrong right here, right? So long as you're stable. If you can, the more you want to work, the more you want to challenge yourself, you'll come out to a longer stance from front to back foot. So this is my right knee. I bend it over my ankle and it lines up with my second toe. So my patella, my kneecap will line up with my second toe. We don't want it to come in. Tight inner thighs will often make this knee come in and we don't even realize it. Okay, so we line up our knee with our second toe. That's how to keep it safe. The ball really of my front foot, the weight is in the ball or the front part of my front foot, and it's in my back heel. So those are the foundational points in this pose. Ball of the front foot, back heel. Now, once my knee is set into place, what's the alignment of the back foot? We don't want our back foot to go out. This is not stable. So if I were to slip, say you're in a power yoga class and it's sweaty and there's sweat on your mat, your back foot here is way more likely to slip out and you could tear your groin. So that's not good, right? We don't want that. Draw your pinky toes in just a bit. Different schools of yoga will have different alignment with the back foot. Some schools will say parallel your pinky toe with the back side of the mat. Perfectly fine if you feel stable. I prefer to draw my toes in just a little bit more. So I'm from the Ashtanga lineage and I bring my foot in just a tiny little bit more. My heel is still firmly planted down into the ground because that really is the foundation of the pose. So just make sure there's no strain on this knee. We don't want this knee to collapse and look like that. That's not good for the knee. So it's a straight leg, a bent knee, roughly 90 degrees. Now what happens here with my pelvis? So for a lot of people, the belly comes forward, the booty goes back. That's called an anterior tilt to your pelvis. From the side, it might look something like belly forward, arm back. So if you see this, or if you see this in yourself, you go, oh yeah, we need to draw our sits bones toward the ground. So think of the lines of the body. The lines of the body would run from the ball of my front foot up to my sitting bone, which are the butt bones back here, my heel to my other sitting bone back here. I draw these 2 points, the sits bones, and if you feel down underneath your butt and you're feeling for 2 little pointy parts down at the very base of your booty down here, you draw them together and toward the floor, together toward the floor. And the same action is to draw your pubic bone up toward your chest. That tightens up our core. It takes out any extra arch in our low back. We really don't want that at all in our Warrior 2. Now, another thing that I commonly see is this leaning forward. So when we're leaning forward, that's caused by not enough action here in the gluteus medius or up here. So we draw our hip bone in and down, or not the hip bone is here, but we draw our glutes in and down, and that will help to keep our torso perpendicular to the floor. So it's not a leaning forward kind of a pose. We're here, we're strong and stable, the front knee is bent, but I want your whole torso, we want the whole torso directly over your pelvis, the bowl of your pelvis, okay? So pubic bone toward your chest, draw your back hip in, that's the action here. If you just take your finger and you kind of put it right into your crease and punch in, that will get the action. It's in and down toward the ground. Now, even with our legs in a Warrior 2, it seems like we could spread out really wide, but we actually want the action of drawing our thighs in toward each other. That gives us some lift and it makes a stronger pose. Plus, you'll feel it right away. Your legs start to go, oh my gosh, I had no idea I could work so hard in Warrior 2. So pubic bone up toward your chest, draw the glutes together, draw your inner thighs toward each other as if you were going to bring them all the way together. Now with our arms, This is something that commonly happens, or we might have hands flying. They might be doing all kinds of funky, fun, crazy things. Whatever works with your arms is perfectly great, but we don't want our shoulder blades all the way up to our ears, because this is what it's like when we're stressed out and we walk around with no necks, and then we get headaches and tension pain. Exhale, draw your shoulder blades down away from your ears. Now for me, I'm a rib popper. So when I'm not paying attention, my butt goes back, my ribs pop forward. The cue for that is draw your sits bones together and toward the floor, and to knit your ribs. So right here, these bottom two ribs attached to cartilage, and we just want to pull them in toward each other. You'll feel your core tighten up quite a bit. Our arms are parallel to the floor, generally palms down. That's the correct alignment. And our focal point, my head just turns. It's just rotation. I'm not side bending, anything like that. Just turn to look over your front middle finger. Now, if this isn't good for your shoulders, palms forward actually feels really nice. That allows for a lot of opening through from shoulder to shoulder. It feels good, but the correct alignment is with your palms down. Another, see anything else? Oh yeah, I like to pick up my toes, spread them wide and plant them back down again. And it just makes it so that I'm not scrunching too hard. In our poses, we can end up working too hard. So if you come to a pose and you're like, oh, I can't breathe, or you stop breathing, or your breath is erratic, that means you're working much too hard. Make sure that you do it on both sides, because even though we have one pelvic girdle, we have two hips, a right and a left one, and they might function differently. They're ball and socket joints, so the way the ball fits into the socket might be very different from the right and the left side. So same thing, the weight is in the ball of my front foot, my knee is over my ankle, the weight is in my back heel, I bring my pinky toes in a tiny little bit, I press through my heel, press through the ball of the foot, draw your sits bones together toward the floor, zipper up your skinny jeans, whatever visual works well for you to draw your pubic bone toward your chest, draw your thighs in toward each other, and float the arms up parallel to the floor. You can always check too, if you're like, I don't know if my arms are parallel. It's really hard to tell when we're in space. So have a look at your backhand and go, that looks like it might be a little bit high. Then lower it down, or it might be a little bit low. Bring it up high. Look at your front hand, same thing. Go, okay. And then really reach fingertips away from fingertips. In all of our yoga postures, we have this action to spread out and away, and at the same time to pull in. So there's expansion and contraction all within the same pose. Look over your middle finger and take a good 5 solid, smooth, deep breaths. Always make sure you're breathing in your yoga postures. Sthira Sukha Asanam says steadiness and ease in all of our postures. And that doesn't mean that the pose is easy. It means that we have ease within our body once we are in the pose. And often the ease comes after a lot of effort until we have mastered the pose. How do we know that we've mastered the pose? It doesn't have anything to do with what the shape looks like, really, because our bodies are different. The shapes might look different, but can I maintain steady focus and steady breath while I'm in the posture? That's how we know that we are practicing yoga asana as opposed to exercise. Thank you so much. I hope you subscribe, and I will see you soon.